Morning, guys. Today we're talking about faith from one of my favorite passages of Hebrews chapter 11, that goes into a bunch of stories that showcase faith, showcase how faith works, and showcases faith's effects. So if you want to grow your faith and grow in your faith, God has not only given you people in your life to show you to have faith, he's not only using you as an example to showcase faith to other people, but God has given you plenty of examples in his word, in the Bible, to encourage you in the faith that you have. So let's get into it. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. All right, let's break that down. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. So faith works as evidence for the things you hope for. Yeah. Sorry. Lost my train of thought there. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. So the evidence of things unseen is that faith allows you to believe even when you cannot see. All right? Evidence of things unseen. Faith allows you to see even when you cannot see. And we're about to go into some examples where people couldn't see, but they trusted God. And that is one of the key components of faith, is trusting God more than what you can see, more than the circumstances, more than what's around you, more than what's going on. That is a key and a crucial element to faith, is allowing faith to be the evidence of something you can't see. God gave you a promise. God gave you a word. God gave you an instruction, and you don't know how it's going to work out. You don't see every step of the path. You don't fully understand how it's all going to work out. In that moment, you can choose to either give into faith or give into fear. And you can't be doing both at the same time, because faith and fear sound different in your brain. And faith comes from God and fear comes from Satan. So have the mindset that promotes faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Verse 3. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel brought a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offering. And by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Pause there for a second. So Enoch, right? Enoch illustrates the principle that without faith, it is impossible to please God. And like I said, a core element to faith is trusting the God who can see. So as opposed to trusting your vision, which is limited, I can only see so far, right? But God sees everything. He saw the beginning. He saw the end. He's seeing the middle. God knows everything that's going to happen. I've heard the analogy. Imagine you're watching an Avengers movie, right? You've seen the whole thing, and you watch it again for the second time. Or let's say you know it even better than that. Let's say you're watching it for the 10th time. When the character in the story gets in danger, but you know they will survive, you're not worried. You're like, oh, they're in danger, but I know they're going to make it through. However, if you watched that movie the first time and you looked at that movie for the first time and you saw the person, the character, the superhero in trouble, you may be concerned because you don't know for sure what's going to happen. Are they going to let the character die? Is the villain going to win? Is that character going to live? Right? And so God created the movie of our lives. So he knows it in and out. He's the director, the screenwriter, the author, the videographer. He is everything. And so he has seen this movie so many times. And so he tells us to trust his vision, right? The Bible says without vision, the people perish. But you have to trust God and not yourself. Lean not unto your own understanding, the Bible says. Because when you lean unto your own understanding, it's finite. But when you lean unto God's understanding, it's infinite. His understanding is. And so one of the key components of faith is trusting God. Not trusting in people, not trusting in your finances, not trusting in your relationship, not trusting in yourself, your job, your career, but trusting God with anything and with everything. Trusting God with anything and with everything. Because we won't fear anything when we learn to trust God with everything. I'm going to say that again. We won't fear anything when we learn to trust God with everything. Everything. Think about that statement, right? Where you fear the most is often where you trust God the least. In every situation, you have the choice to either live in faith or live in fear. And God says the righteous will live by faith. That is what I love, how the whole Bible connects, right? Because in verse 6, right? Because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, one, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. It takes faith to come to God. It takes faith to believe in God. It takes faith to come to God. And it takes faith to believe that he is going to bless you. The devil wants you to think that your situation is done for, that you're done for. You made a mistake. You fell. People are standing in your way. And Satan wants you to believe, because Satan attacks you through your thoughts, he wants you to believe that you're not going to make it out. There is going to be, for the rest, there is always a constant spiritual battle between the devil trying to put fear into you and God trying to put faith into you. But the beautiful thing is, you have the choice at every moment to decide which way you go in, which way you allow your mind to go. That's why in Philippians it says, do not be anxious for anything, but through prayer and supplication, make your requests known to God, right? It is by the communication from us to God that we maintain the faith that we have. And it is by listening to the evil thoughts that the devil will try to send into our brain that we give in to fear. All right? By faith, so verse 7, by faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in holy fear, built an ark to save his family. By his faith, he condemned the world and became the heir of righteousness that is in keeping with faith. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen. Before Noah, there had never been a flood. There had never been rain. For us, rain, floods, those are common. But for them, you've never seen it before. And oftentimes, God is going to call you to do something that is going to make you look crazy to other people because it's something they've never seen before. At the time of this video, I am running an online social media business, right? And at the time of this video, that's relatively new. And the important thing is that God has called me to it, right? And so I'm just using my own personal life as an example. Right now, people are saying, I'm crazy, it doesn't make any sense, it's not going to work out. But say, give it a few decades from now, people, when you hear someone say they start a social media business, everyone's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because it's just normal. It's just average. It's commonplace. But building an ark, building a boat for rain that's about to come when there hasn't been any rain, doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And so oftentimes what God calls you to do is not going to make sense for other people. But if you focus on the opinions of other people when God calls you, you will have fear. God, what if it doesn't work out? What if everyone thinks I'm a fraud? What if everyone thinks I'm a loser? What if everyone thinks I'm a coward? What if everyone thinks I'm lazy? What if everyone thinks I'm wasting my time? What am I going to do? But faith says, God, I trust you. I trust your vision. I trust your sight. I trust your plan. I trust your vision. I trust what you see. I trust what you know. And I'm going to lean into that. Faith is leaning in to the understanding given by God and leaning away from the understanding of man. This doesn't mean don't have common sense, right? But it does mean that sometimes what God is going to call you to do is going to look illogical. And it will be illogical. It won't make sense at first, but it will make sense in the end. But the fact is, you have to use faith to act even when you don't know if it's going to work out. And so one of the beautiful things about faith as well is that faith inspires action. Faith inspires action. This chapter 11 is so rich, and we're not going to get to every single example today, but go read Hebrews chapter 11. Right? By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. Faith leads to action. Right? That's what the Bible says. Faith without works is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, built an ark to save his family, right? So you have the faith, and then you have the corresponding action. So When God gives you a word, when God gives you instruction, when you have faith, there's supposed to be a corresponding action. Wow, my phone is falling a lot. That's okay though. We'll be all right. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not go where he was going. Guys, when you are following God, you have to get used to trusting God in the midst of uncertainty. Trusting God in the midst of uncertainty is faith. Faith, an example of faith is trusting God in the midst of uncertainty. God says, walk down that street, and you don't know why. You just know that God told you. And our responsibility is not to know everything, because God knows everything. But our responsibility as a Christian is to be obedient in everything. So when God says, cut that person off, when God says, bring that person in, when God says, stay in that job for a little bit longer, when God says, leave that job and go to another job, or stop the business, start the business, be in a relationship, leave the relationship, start the Christian YouTube channel, stop your Christian YouTube channel, rest, go. God will give you instructions when you are listening. It's not that God doesn't want to speak to us, but it's that we are not willing to listen, right? The Bible talks about how when Elijah heard from God, there was thunder, the mountains were crashing, there was wind, but God was not in the thunder or the wind or the loudness. God was in the silence, in the peace. So if you want to hear from God, it is important to take time away from the noise so that you can hear him, so that you can read your words, so that you can pray, so that you can meditate. The Bible says that faith comes by hearing. It says it in Romans. Faith comes by hearing. So the more you hear from God, the more faith you will have. But the only way you can hear from God and have more faith is by talking to God. It's simple, guys. It's really simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. The more you are with God, the more potential you have to have greater faith. The more you pray, the more you read the scriptures, the more you study, the more you listen to sermons, the more diligent you are in your walk, the more faith you will have. This video is getting a little long, so I'm going to cut it off here. I'm going to summarize, and then this is going to have to be a series, guys. This chapter is so rich. We've only gotten through a few verses, right? And it's almost 20 minutes, okay? So, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Our faith gives us hope and the evidence of things unseen. Your faith is what will give you hope even when you can't see a way out, even when you can't see a way to pay that bill, to pay rent, to pay off your mortgage, to finish school, to build that business. Some of you may be struggling so much financially. And I'm telling you, if you put your faith in God and you're being obedient in his plan, God's got you. It's going to be okay. God has got you. So step out of your anxiety, step out of your fear, step into faith. And I know it is so difficult to trust God when everything is falling apart. But with God, we know that all things work together for good. So what you think is everything falling apart is actually God making things fall together, fall into place. Right? And so we had 4 examples of faith, right? In this, from what we've read so far: Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, right? So Noah and Abraham couldn't see, but they followed God's instructions. Noah in building the ark, and Abraham in leaving his family and going to a foreign land. All right? Abel also brought a good offering to God by faith because he followed God's instructions. Cain didn't follow God's instructions because of his lack of faith. And Enoch was taken up to heaven with God because of his faith. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. The greater your faith, the greater your relationship with God will be. All right, guys. Read the Bible for yourself. The evidence of things unseen. That's what faith is. Trusting God when it's difficult. That's what faith is. And sometimes God allows difficulty in our lives so that we have the opportunity to have faith. Have faith in God. You won't fear anything when you trust God with everything. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.